Hey guys, Wade here. So, Australia is getting ready to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF in the next 6 days. They are also saying that they expect at least $1 billion worth of investment to come into Bitcoin within, the initial launch. So, with that, I figured this was the perfect opportunity to not only figure out what is going on over there, and also we can actually learn about what this is really going to do, because there's been a lot of discussion about ETFs so far in recent months, really. There's been a lot of discussion about ETFs in the crypto space when it comes to Bitcoin. And one thing that everyone has been looking for is a spot ETF. So with that being getting ready to launch in the coming days, I think we need to figure out exactly what this whole situation is about, guys. So let's not waste any more time. Make sure you smash that like button for me, and we are going to get right to it. Now, Australia's first spot Bitcoin ETF is launching next week. 21 Shares is set to become the first issuer to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF in Australia after Cosmos announced its de facto fund of funds. So a lot of money has been moving in Australia recently, guys. Now somebody's getting ready to do something with it. So cryptocurrency focused company 21 Shares has teamed up with the leading exchange traded fund provider ETF Securities to launch Australia's first spot Bitcoin ETF. This was confirmed in a statement on Tuesday. The 21 Shares Bitcoin ETF is set to go live on the country's Cboe trading platform on April 27th. 21 Shares product joins a similar fund from Cosmos Asset Management that will also start trading on the same day. So we got two ETF products launching on the same day in a major market. Okay. Now, Cosmos's product became the first Bitcoin ETF to receive the green light for launching in Australia yesterday, as the manager agreed to the country's main clearinghouse requirements of 42% of margin for such a product. However, 21 Shares Fund will be the first offering to invest directly into the underlying asset. That's the key difference there. Cosmos's Bitcoin ETF will allow people to obtain exposure to the price of Bitcoin by investing in Toronto, Canada-based Purpose Bitcoin ETF, North America's first spot BTC ETF that launched earlier last year. So again, even reading this a second time, I still forgot that, yes, we do have one in Canada. We should be showing more love to Canada. But nevertheless, guys, that's the situation. That's the landscape. We have two massive Bitcoin investment products launching on the same day. And with that, guys, now we need to get a little bit of clarity on just what each one is. Okay. Now, this article that was posted last year in October, courtesy of Crypto Potato, is going to explain to us the difference between spot ETFs, futures-backed Bitcoin ETFs, and just ETFs in general. Now, let's just start with the traditional ETF. It's described as an investment vehicle that's designed to track the performance of a particular asset or a group of assets. They allow investors to receive exposure to these assets and diversify their portfolios without worrying about owning the underlying assets. So essentially, guys, you'll see an ETF in the form of iShares, where you're investing in gold or silver or certain industries, like with ARK Invest. Okay, her ETF, it's focused on a basket of tech companies. So instead of investing in the particular company itself, you can invest in the sector that the company participates in, and that way you can benefit from all of the participants in that particular industry. So that's what the benefits of ETFs are, guys. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin futures ETFs. So in order for us to understand what the Bitcoin futures ETFs are, we have to first know about Bitcoin futures. They are a derivative trading instrument allowing two parties to agree on buying or selling BTC at a predetermined price or date. Basically, one party agrees to buy or sell the Bitcoin at a specific price or date, irrespective of what the price actually ends up being on that day. This is This particular date is also referred to as the settlement date or the expiration. Once the Bitcoin futures contract expires, one party must buy or sell the Bitcoin at the agreed upon price. Essentially, they'll get a discount or pay a premium because the price is unlikely to be the same as when the contract was struck. So simply put, guys, Bitcoin futures ETF, it's an investment vehicle that allows you to bet against the performance of Bitcoin. You can short it by anticipating the price going down further, or you can long it by anticipating the price going higher. So that's how futures work. They also have them for other instruments. Ethereum's got a futures, and there are wheat futures and paper futures and all types of futures. It's weird. But getting to the spot Bitcoin ETF, this is what we really want to know, right? A regular spot-based ETF would be one that tracks the price of actual physical Bitcoins. The main idea of this would be to allow investors to receive exposure to Bitcoin through a regulated and financially familiar product without having to own the actual underlying asset. So essentially, what we're going to see is Bitcoin on the stock exchange, but it's not the actual Bitcoin. Kind of like what Robinhood has been doing this whole time, by and letting you invest in Bitcoin, but it's not actually Bitcoin. Now we're going to have the same thing on a much larger market. All right. Now, this is going to, it has, and here's what the SEC has been having a problem with recently. With this type of scenario, you do have the potential of people manipulating the price, because if the spot ETF for Bitcoin is outperforming the actual price of the asset, there may be some correlation that comes into play here. Okay. And then that's when people start to suspect the manipulation. But there are some benefits, right? Number one being exposure to Bitcoin's price through a regulated product. So you have some safety there. It is also easier to access, and you don't need to actually store any Bitcoin or manage your private keys. So, and again, that also makes it not yours at the end of the day. But you also have the ability to short Bitcoin's price as well. Now, the most important consideration, because spot-based investing doesn't allow users to bet on the price going down. If there's an ETF, investors can short the shares of the ETF and benefit from downwards movements. So that also ties into what we were mentioning a moment ago with the manipulation. If people really wanted to, they could short the heck out of the spot ETF, and that will just have a negative impact on sentiment in general. All right. So in summary, guys, the differences between futures-backed and spot ETFs can be narrowed down to a couple of things. One, the spot-based ETF is backed by real Bitcoin, where futures ETFs are backed by derivatives, in this case, Bitcoin futures contracts. More importantly, the price of Bitcoin futures contracts might diverge from the current market price based on investors' sentiment, and occasionally it might track the price inaccurately. When it comes to a spot-based ETF, on the other hand, that risk doesn't exist. So putting all of those pieces together, guys, it's apparent why the spot ETF is something that we have been waiting for a long time, because it can actually support our price. Now, what do I think that it will get us back up to 100K, or not back up to, but at least headed back towards that direction? Potentially. With everything that I'm learning so far, I'm really thinking that this year we might just recover back to the 60s. We may just see the 60s again, because I did some studying on the halving, refreshed, my information on the halving event. And, mathematically, we're not set for a major rally of that proportion until about 2023. So you never know. But what you can be sure in is the information and the knowledge that you obtain in times like these. So if you found value in this content, guys, of course, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and ring said notification bell. Also, if you want more educational information, we have a university. Small, it's humble, but we're building it. Okay. And we got some pretty decent content, especially if you're new to crypto. Those videos will pop up right here, guys. And while you're watching them, I just want you to do a couple things for me. Have a great day. Have a prosperous day. Most importantly, if that money is digital, so is your hustle. I'll see y'all in the next one.